Miss Nadia is an expert that I am interested to talk to her about the freedom of the 9 to 5. So I love that
Yes,
because that's the dream that everybody is chasing.
certainly. Yeah. Breaking up with that. And my
Yeah.
background really is in over 2 decades of marketing and advertisement for really household names. Think Colgate, think Lindt Chocolate, think Kraft Foods, Heinz Ketchup. So big, big brands. And what I do today is I take all that knowledge that I learned and gathered over the years and the good and the bad and the pain and the fun. And I'm breaking it down and helping people who are aspiring to build their own business, who want to escape the 9 to 5. And I help them to create a really powerful, strong foundation with a specific focus on how do you make sure that your audience is able to find you and get what you're doing. And so you're able to connect with them and then ultimately make sure that they're going to be able to come to you, buy and convert and make them clients. So, and that's what I do today, originally from Germany, now in the East Coast of the United States. And so
Well,
that's the first thing that I really need people to reflect upon. If you value the 9 to 5 and you don't have to take work home, if you value the structure of having your shifts and someone else is taking care of the back end and the worry of how to bring in clients and or patients, then that might not be for you. But if you value the freedom, the power that comes with being truly in the driver's seat, then you have to probably reevaluate, is that paycheck really a safety net or is it maybe golden handcuffs? So that's the first thing for us to start. The other, like, more specific advice that I can give. Well, first of all, what you focus on expands. So if you keep focusing on, gosh, I'm not going to have the paycheck anymore and I don't know what to do and this is going to be really scary and all that. If you focus on that, then that is going to be your truth. So if they have the life, if they have the attitude, if they have the goals that you have, then that's good advice. But if you have naysayers and people who are very certainly themselves kind of stuck in the 9 to 5, that are no longer your people. You have to behave in ways that the future you would behave. That's how you literally shape the reality.
stage.
The first thing I would say is that we need to, first of all, detach time from outcome or time from money. Just because you work more and you hustle and you pull in the hours doesn't mean that you get more outcome. Quite the opposite. Again, focusing on the abundance versus the scarcity. So that's one of the first things I would recommend. Stop obsessing with being busy. Because why are we busy? When we do the things that are probably not the money-making moves. When we are busy and we're doing the things, we have all the new ideas and we're gonna start writing a blog and we could do 12 other things. That is, again, this is your brain keeping you where you at. Because being busy, we learned that being busy is good. And if you work a lot and you really grind and you do all that, that is how you get rewarded. And maybe in the past you have been rewarded. And I had that with me too. I had the same thing. I worked my butt off for 20 years, more than that. And I worked so hard and I gave everything and then some, including my mental health and physical health. And number one advice that helped me and is helping my clients is finding either a piece of meditation that you can put on your phone. So my go-to, for example, is a yoga nidra exercise. So yoga nidra is essentially a yoga of the mind, and it is grounded into a body scan. And the body scan is essentially helping, the prefrontal cortex to take back control and feeling into the body. And there are so many things out there. Literally go on Spotify, find what feels right for you, what's good. And even if it's just a 4 or 5 minute one, when you feel yourself in a moment like that, turn it on, close the doors, close your eyes, and listen to that. So when you find something like that you love, that's a great first step.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dentment Podcast. Man, I am amazed by how many episodes we have recorded, and every time I bring a different guest on, I am amazed that we went from dentistry to interviewing multiple people from different area, and I am excited for this one today because Miss Nadia is an expert that I am interested to talk to her about the freedom of the 9 to 5. So I love that because
Yes,
that's the dream that everybody is chasing.
certainly. Yeah. Breaking up with that.
Yep. Well, Miss Nadia, thank you so much for hopping on. I know you were kind enough. We met once before and we discussed things. If you can please introduce yourself to the audience, tell them who you are, what you do, and really why you do it, because the why of what we do things is so important. So I would appreciate if you can do that, and then I'll hop into the questions. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I just
Yes.
have fond memories of us talking the last time. So I'm excited for this.
Thank you.
So my name is Nadia Fromm and my business is Fromm Consulting. I'm a business coach and I specialize on marketing that actually converts clients. And my background really is in over 2 decades of marketing and advertisement for really household names. Think Colgate, think Lindt Chocolate, think Kraft Foods, Heinz Ketchup. So big, big brands. And what I do today is I take all that knowledge that I learned and gathered over the years and the good and the bad and the pain and the fun. And I'm breaking it down and helping people who are aspiring to build their own business, who want to escape the 9 to 5. And I help them to create a really powerful, strong foundation with a specific focus on how do you make sure that your audience is able to find you and get what you're doing. And so you're able to connect with them and then ultimately make sure that they're going to be able to come to you, buy and convert and make them clients. So, and that's what I do today, originally from Germany, now in the East Coast of the United States.
Well, wow, Germany. That's far. Same as me. I'm from Iran. Every time I think about how far we came, I'm like, oh my God, that's far. Well, hey, that's awesome. The one thing that you mentioned, and I was actually doing some research. So you transitioned from being like a corporate marketing executive, working with these billion-dollar brands, being like and then all of a sudden you decide to become this like coach that of entrepreneur. What was the defining moment that made you want to take that leap of faith and saying, I'm going to transition and really become a coach for other entrepreneurs, show them how it can be done, show them how these million and billion-dollar companies are doing it. Because as you know, when we are in our comfort zone, we are comfortable where we at. But where was the kind of turning point for you that you decide that I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna go just really like taking this to the next level and try to help others?
So much to unpack there, really. My turning point, quite honestly, was my emotional and mental state of completely shutting down. It was one day I was sitting in front of my computer and actually exactly at this desk. And I was preparing for a board presentation, just one of those things. And I found myself being empty, numb, couldn't do anything. My brain wasn't really braining anymore. And that was the moment where I realized that I've been really chasing something that was not really even my dream. And I've chased it and I climbed the career ladder for so long and I've done really well. And I always pushed for more. And in the end, what it left me with is just emptiness and exhaustion. And not just exhaustion, but that numbness. And that was when I realized, okay, this is burnout. This is burnout telling me right now that this is not a way for you to move forward. And so I remembered my times back in being a startup business angel, being back then being a marketing consultant. And so I said, you know what? I was really happy in the time when I was my own boss. And I'm happiest when I can truly make an impact and define what my day and my time is looking like and define who I work with. And so all that essentially was these realizations were part of my healing journey. And in the end, I combined that, the background in advertising agency, in startups, in those big global corporate brands, and I combined everything together and I said, you know what? When I can break out of this 9 to 5, when I can walk away from the push and the hustle and the grind and go into a little bit more of that quiet and calm and finally following my pull. What is that really excites me? What is that gets me up in the morning? And everybody says that, right? If you find something that you really truly love, you don't work no day in your life. That's a lie. but it does hit very differently from working on a paycheck 9 to 5 for somebody else's dream than working probably more than a 9 to 5, right? But for yourself, that hits different. The gratification, just overall, like the feeling of it hits differently. And so that was for me really the point of realizing no more of that. I'm going to walk over here because that door is certainly closed for me. And it opened so many beautiful doors for me, which brings me where I am today, and just really helping small business owners and early stage and aspiring entrepreneurs to just, what does it take? Where to start? And that's where I come in.
It's such a fascinating conversation because, like, we as dentists, we talk about this all the time with other dentists that I bring on podcasts. That like the burnout is such an important factor for people, and it pushes them to make very hard decisions because those burnout are real, and like I think everybody faces it differently, like you mentioned. But it is so fascinating how it kind of like it cross overs to every industry that people feel that burnout. It doesn't matter what you do, right? You're gonna feel that burnout at some moment. And it's just so fascinating that we kind of share that in our industry. But I think in any industry that you're constantly going, you're a high achiever, I think you're gonna get to some point that you're gonna burn out no matter what you do. So the one thing I want to ask you is that when you got to that moment where you're like, man, I'm just burned out, what did that what did that burnout moment teach you, and how did it shape you to kind of take on the current approach that you have in your business and your coaching? How did that transformation of that burning out really help you now to help other people so that they don't get to that burnout? So how has that journey been like? How has that transformation been like for your business and your coaching?
That's a great way to start that conversation there, because burnout looks different for anyone, right? We're all individuals, and burnout can hit you when you work too much, but also when you work on the wrong things, when you're forced to work the wrong way for you. Because we are, as said, we're individuals, and there's so much diversity of thought and culture and background and experiences. And the environment where I specifically come from, that corporate 9 to 5, these companies are incredibly good at defining a blueprint and a role and a job description, and they're going to put you in this specific swim lane. And that is your mold for you to work in, and that's your little sandbox. But the moment you're going to kind of like, push the edges or want to like stick your neck out a little bit too much, that is going to disrupt things. And so these companies are incredibly good at being highly efficient and very fast and growing incredibly to very, very large organizations because, well, it's a very rigid structure. Now, not every brain is wired the same way. And so many people that I meet and many of my clients today found themselves at one or the other point questioning, what is that success actually that I'm chasing? And is that actually my definition of success? And if not, why am I still chasing it? But what I'll tell you is that our brains are designed for speed and efficiency. And it really would like to be 90% on autopilot. Now, what that means is that it truly forces us to stay in our lane. It forces us to do what we've been doing for a long time, if it's maybe good or not good for us. But that is really the neural pathways that have been traveled for decades, those are the ones that it wants you to keep traveling. And it gives you dopamine hits and all of that to just keep you there, keep you in the comfort zone, because that feels safe. But if you want to change, if you want to break out of that, that is an incredible, difficult process. And doing that alone is scary and isolating and lonely, and you constantly question yourself, right? You can't see the label from inside the jaw. So you need someone to be that mirror to say, how do I start trusting myself when I have been taught since school, early age of, you're going to raise your hand to speak. You're going to make sure you follow the rules. You're going to make sure that when you have a work product that you create, that your boss aligns and your boss is praising you for it. That is what we have been coded and trained to do. But if you want to break out of that mindset shift from employee to entrepreneur is a really tough one, and it's scary because that doesn't feel safe. And if it doesn't feel safe, your brain does everything in its power to keep you away from it. And so my coaching specifically focuses, of course, the business, the foundations. We can talk from financial, budget planning to marketing strategy. But the biggest part, honestly, is the mindset, is to help you to understand how can you start, well, almost brainwashing yourself in a way, in a positive way towards success. Because we are often really having a lot of avoidance strategies and a lot of ways that our mind is keeping us where we're at. And so that shift, that is probably the most difficult one. And I went through it myself and it was scary. And in the end, my health and my body didn't give me another choice. So if anyone, listening to this feels really scared to walk away from that paycheck, from that kind of set schedule of the 9 to 5, but truly feels that pull, not the push because of external expectations or any other motivations, but truly that intrinsic pull. If you feel that, that's freaking scary, but that might be just the sign that you need to take that leap. That's a scary place, but that's where we start.
Yeah, that's so, yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is so like it's in any way it's very informative, especially for like doctors myself. I mean, I can tell you that sometimes it becomes very scary because you go to school, you want to kind of transition from that comfort zone, like you said, leaving that paycheck to check life and not wanting to step out of that. It sometimes become very scary, even for me, sometimes saying, oh man, like what is the other side gonna look like? But then being able to take a chance and gamble on yourself and just really believe in the fact that you can do it, that's a part that I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting. In your experience, I mean, this is something, I mean, just I'm asking this for myself, maybe like if somebody want to really break from that lifestyle, from like that safety net of that check, I want to transition truly from that 9 to 5 and transition out of it. Some of the method that you coaching your clients to saying it's okay, you can do this, right? Imagine me being your client. What are some of the tactic that you teach them to have that positive mindset that they can tell themselves, I will be okay. So what are some of that kind of pinpoint that you have with them, or the conversation you're having with them, that's going to help them, drive them to go towards that direction?
Let's maybe start by defining or maybe even busting that myth of safety and security that a paycheck gives you. Because especially in the United States, it's employment at will, and they can fire you with no reason tomorrow. So that perceived safety, that is decades and decades of training of us believing that that is safe, that is reliable, I have the benefits, and I have my PTO days, but what's the cost? And so that's the first thing that I really need people to reflect upon. If you value the 9 to 5 and you don't have to take work home, if you value the structure of having your shifts and someone else is taking care of the back end and the worry of how to bring in clients and or patients, then that might not be for you. But if you value the freedom, the power that comes with being truly in the driver's seat, then you have to probably reevaluate, is that paycheck really a safety net, or is it maybe golden handcuffs? So that's the first thing for us to start. The other, more specific advice that I can give. Well, first of all, what you focus on expands. So if you keep focusing on, gosh, I'm not going to have the paycheck anymore and I don't know what to do and this is going to be really scary and all that. If you focus on that, then that is going to be your truth. Because our brain has a built-in confirmation bias. And so when you believe that this is your truth, that it's unsafe and it's hard and it's difficult and I don't know where to start, then that is going to be everything that you're going to be able to see to confirm that truth. So first we need to shape your new truth. And that is done by breaking out the very exact steps that you need to take. So where do we start, right? Is it, we need to start finding a potential location, define what specific audience we want to attract, right? Is it more rural? Is it city center? What does that mean? What specific problem am I solving, right? Do I work with maybe people who are really anxious about going to the dentist? Are we looking for maybe people in more like a, senior lifestyle? Like, where do we go? Where are we with this? So that's the first step for us to define who's my person, right? You can't kill what you can't see. So we're going to define that first. And then from there, we will go ahead and define every little step towards that, towards building the financial plan to make it tangible. So you can see that if I want to have that kind of income, that means I have to have this amount of leads coming in from my website. Okay, if I want to have this number of leads from my website, what does it mean in terms of visitors on the page? All right, now we can backtrack that to how much ad spend we need to take. Everything is less scary when you can write it down and you can look at it. So that clarity that we're going to build the plan and exactly what needs to be done today and what do you not have to think about today. That clarity creates the confidence. And probably the only other advice that I would have very specifically for everyone out there, if you're considering to jump ship, make sure you have at least 6 months of financials in place. And then just focus on that. Focus on that. Yes, I can do it. Look and find people in your environment that done it before. Listen to the right podcasts that give you the right mindset and do not kind of amplify the scarcity and all that. Focus on the abundance out there. Everybody who walks, everybody who even doesn't walk, everybody has teeth. Everybody needs to go to the dentist. So yes, there is going to be a niche for you. We just need to define it and then we're going to hold on to that. And so that is a way for us to create your new truth. And you're going to start believing it. And there are a lot of mechanisms we go through, but that's you through repetition, through, positive affirmations, journaling, meditation. I know this all sounds very fluffy and, kind of holding crystals up, but that is how we create new neural pathways. This is how we're going to shape, and we can feel it. We can smell it. We can see the emotions and everything coming up. We truly create this reality. And then all of a sudden, the brain is going to start looking for confirmation that that is the truth. That takes constant work, daily programming, daily grounding. But that is one of the most important steps to start your own business. Because I'll tell you, if you don't believe in yourself, if you have doubts, even if you don't really think that actively, but if your body holds that doubt, that whatever you believe in, the universe or whatever you believe system is, will then not allow you to go down that path because that would be too scary. And so it's constant work. But it's definitely worth it. And that's really, truly how we start creating that truth for us.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so fascinating when you think about everything that happens in our life or in people's life. It all goes back to their mindset, right? When you have a strong mindset about something, you're just gonna chase it no matter what. And I said this recently on one of my LinkedIn, and I had a conversation about it. I'm not like ashamed of mentioning it. I was like, man, I was truly stuck behind getting into dental school for like 3 years, but there was just no giving up because the mindset was just that I was like, this is what I want, and I'm just gonna keep chasing it no matter what it is, right? So it's like that mindset of like wanting to make things happen, and you just put the work behind it. I feel like everything is so possible when you put yourself in the right place and you
Yeah.
just have the right mindset. Because, like you said, if you're not talking positive to yourself, there's a lot of negativity that is happening around us. And so that's really truly going to stop us from getting to where we need to go in life if we're not able to really just mute things out and focus on what we're doing.
Yeah. Let me give you one more thought on that one.
Sure.
Because I bet that when you were in that situation, you said, I really want to go to that school. I will make this happen for me. It's not just like I wish, I could, I should. I will, right? Treat it as present tense, treat it as a truth. One thing that is really, really important through that whole journey is that you surround yourself with people that do support that truth. So you certainly heard of the concept that we are made up out of the 5 people we spend most time with. So that's one of the very first things too, is we're going to do an audit and an inventory of who are the people you spend most time with. And if those people are not supporting you or lifting you up, cheering you on in any shape or form, then don't listen to them, right? Don't ever take anyone's advice whom you do not want to switch places with. So if they have the life, if they have the attitude, if they have the goals that you have, then that's good advice. But if you have naysayers and people who are very certainly themselves kind of stuck in the 9 to 5, that are no longer your people. You have to behave in ways that the future you would behave. That's how you literally shape the reality.
Wow, I need to tattoo that somewhere on me. Man, that's a strong code right there. You need to put that somewhere. That's awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. You're so right about that. And I was listening to a podcast, and you know, and there was a, I'm not gonna say their name, but there was a very, very famous billionaire that said this. I'm never gonna take an advice from a person that is not in my shoes, or at least trying to chase what I'm chasing. And that just stuck with me so much. Like, just like you said, it's like I'm never going to get an advice from somebody that like doesn't understand what I'm chasing or what I'm doing, because they're never gonna see the vision that you're trying to get to. And those are the people that I never want to go to for an advice. I always want to go to advice for people that are in the place that I'm trying to get to, because that's so important.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
It's
that's why
so
we do
important.
these podcasts, right? It's all
Yeah,
about being the one that somebody else is looking for to look up to or to get advice from. Like, this is why these platforms are so powerful, because that way you can foster really empowering and positive mindsets, and the ones that really bring you to success.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. I think that's one of the main reasons why we started Dentment, we started this podcast and everything else in between of it. Because as a pre-dental student to a dental student to now a dentist, I saw the things that are missing in the industry, and I wanted the people to know, or the dentist, or the pre-dental student, or the dental student, or even the dentists that are out there, is that hey, we make the common mistakes, but we have to educate each other on how can we help ourselves get out of the situation, from the burnout, from being stressed, from all of that. If we have those conversations that me and you are having right now, and people can learn from those things, we can change something. We can change that mindset that you mentioned. And that's really what the goal is, to just to use what we have to help somebody else, so that way they can kind of better
Yeah.
themselves, because that's ultimately what this is about.
Exactly. And it's a painful process, because the old you, this is going to sound super dramatic, but in part it's true. But the old you almost have to die. And the journey that you're on to, open up your own practice and becoming your own boss and doing all of that, it is so important that you let go of people in your environment that are holding you back. So you will very quickly, once you start bettering your own mindset, you will see that all of a sudden, when you might meet with certain friends or might meet with certain, in a certain business group or business network group, you say, all of a sudden, I don't really feel I'm having the right conversations here anymore. And so don't hold on to that. I know this is really difficult, but don't hold on to anything that is holding you back. It is super hard, and this is why not a lot of people do it. But if you really want to do that, commit to the future you and commit to who that future you would surround themselves with. And yes, you will lose friendships. I've been there, I've done that. I lost a marriage. And at the same time, you just look back 1 year ago, 5 years ago, who is that? And how amazing when you just think about how that is going to extrapolate in the future. If you keep thinking like that, again, it takes a little bit of crazy. It takes a little bit of, that manic, I'm never going to give up, and I'm going to take 99 no's to get that one yes. And I listened to a podcast the other day as well, and I can't remember who said that, but they say if you're willing to, and I beat me out if I can't swear, but if you're willing to suck at something for 100 days straight, you're already ahead of the pack,
Yeah.
ahead of anyone else, because not a lot of people do that. That's what it takes
Yeah.
to build your own business. And then obviously do what you're really good at and get support for anything else that you need. That's okay
Yeah.
because nobody does this alone, ever.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The part that you said you're gonna lose friends as truly my like, we discussed about this is one of those things that kind of takes me back because in my early ages, when I was 20, I was such a people pleaser. I always wanted to please everybody. But like as I'm getting older and older and older in life, I'm realizing that really truly that old me died because it really did. Because right now, if I tell you probably the number of friends that I have, you can count them with fingers. That's really where we're at because I used to value people's opinion so much, and now I just don't care. I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, it doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what people say. Even starting this podcast is like, I didn't care. I was like, I'm just gonna start it and see what happens, right? Because it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter like I'm not after anybody's validation anymore. And that's really so important, I think, for people to understand is like you don't have to chase anybody else's for people to like you, dislike you, none of that matter because those people are not gonna be around. If they want to be around, they're gonna be around. And when they don't want to be, they're not gonna be. So that's really
Mm.
where things are at. But yeah, I guess in some ways my old me died.
Right? I mean, isn't that true that every 7 years we are completely replaced? Like all cells are kind of turned over once anyway. So every 7 years you are physically, literally a new person. So why would you stick around the same people?
That's amazing. One thing I wanted to talk about is you help the entrepreneurs to go through to kind of niche down what they want to do, what matters to them, and then help them scale, right? Help them get where they need to be. So what are some common error do you see in that process those entrepreneurs make while you're trying to help them scale, while you're trying to help them get to that next stage? What are some of the common mistakes and the error that you see they make? That you're like maybe you shouldn't or maybe this is not the way things are. What are some of those common things that you see in that journey?
Favorite topic, favorite topic. The biggest mistake I see, and most people do it, are trying to talk to everyone. So when we talk specifically about marketing now, when you're trying to market to everybody, you're marketing to no one. That's the number one rule in marketing. So jot that down. You need to niche down. And niching down is very, again, scary because FOMO. But what if there's one person, but I want to make sure that, everybody with a mouth could be my client. Yes, but what we need to create is, again, first, truly understanding who you really want to work with and not just here are the services and here's my process and here are the features or all that. Nobody buys into that. People buy into that transformation, right? It's the beautiful smile. It's being carefree about, having healthy teeth, like all that, like whatever that dream outcome is, that transformation, that's what people buy into. And that's what we need to identify. What is that for you specifically that you uniquely can serve in your community and wherever you are in your minds and your setting? So that's the first thing. So once we define that, then we can combine that with an offer that makes people lean in, right? So when you create an offer, a message, a Facebook post that is just generic, people browse by. You scroll by. Attention span now is below 8 seconds. So you need to get these people really quick. And how do you do that? By making them feel seen. By creating that feeling of, wait, oh, that's me. They get me. And that feeling you can only create if you niche down and you're going to be really, really specific. There's this famous example about the difference between, to kind of illustrate the niching down very specifically. So imagine you are a fitness coach. So you're a fitness coach and you're offering that program to people to say, broad audience, you say, I'm going to help you lose weight, or I'm going to help you get fit. I'm a personal trainer. I'm helping you get fit. Now, when I hear that, for personal reasons, but also because I'm just a human, is that, well, that means I have to work out all the time. I have to cook healthy. I don't even know. I don't have time to cook healthy. I have other people in my household and I have to do more. Healthy food is expensive. I don't even know where to go in the grocery store. You have a million reasons why this is totally not for you. Now let's switch that over. Let's be really specific. It's a very famous example. So imagine now you're going to say, help busy moms lose 20 pounds in 8 weeks without working out and losing your favorite foods. Wait a minute. Okay, so not only is that immediately taking some of my objections away, but also, damn, that's so specifically for me. And that makes me lean in. And that makes me pay higher prices, convert faster and more likely, and come back, because this is exactly for me. This is not just for everybody. And that is why niching down is so important. So the number one lesson, if you don't take anything else away, don't talk to everybody. Just talk to your person and be super, super clear, and do not go away from that path. Don't think that just within 2 months you haven't reached the right people. They're probably just starting to hear you. So it takes consistency and clarity and really that very focused strategy to break through eventually to your people.
So I was just taking notes.
It's like, I just blew your brain off.
I'm like, oh. I'm not realizing that I can actually go back to my YouTube channel and watch this podcast. I'm just so used to juggling things down. I'm like, this become a habit. But hey, I love it. So the one thing that you also mentioned going back about the mindset and the values, right? So I read somewhere that you mentioned that this, as you can see, I did a lot of research on you. So you
Good, well
mentioned,
prepared.
yes, you mentioned something about the rest being a superpower, right? So as people are kind of getting into the pattern and they kind of getting into their momentum, how do you teach them to also take time for themselves and really rest without dropping the pattern of the momentum that they're on? Because you're kind of on this, train, and you're going. How do you tell them, hey, you gotta stop, rest, and come back stronger without kind of messing things up while they're on that path to the next stage?
The first thing I would say is that we need to, first of all, detach time from outcome or time from money. Just because you work more and you hustle and you pull in the hours doesn't mean that you get more outcome. Quite the opposite. Again, focusing on the abundance versus the scarcity. So that's one of the first things I would recommend. Stop obsessing with being busy. Because why are we busy? When we do the things that are probably not the money-making moves. When we are busy and we're doing the things, we have all the new ideas and we're going to start writing a blog and we could do 12 other things. That is, again, this is your brain keeping you where you at. Because being busy, we learned that being busy is good. And if you work a lot and you really grind and you do all that, that is how you get rewarded. And maybe in the past you have been rewarded. And I had that with me too. I had the same thing. I worked my butt off for 20 years, more than that. And I worked so hard and I gave everything and then some, including my mental health and physical health. And well, unfortunately, I was very successful with that. I climbed that ladder by my fingernails. So breaking out of that, unlearning that working more means getting out more. That's the biggest thing what we need to do first. So detaching yourself from that. When you are in the moves, when you clearly define what are the money making moves for you, what is that really truly moves the needle for me, then that is what you need to do. And you focus on that. And then you also need to truly schedule in the time off. So what I want you to think about is how can you be focusing, you can use all the tips and tricks out there with time blocking on your calendar and all the things. And I have like a little ADHD, like a little alarm. So when I get lost, like I know I'm going to have 30 minutes and that's going to be a go. And then I can completely let everything go. I don't have to think about anything else. This is my 30-minute sprint. And then I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to do a stretch. I'm going to grab another coffee, and then I'm going to go back. And I'm going to do another 30 minutes. So do that incredibly intentionally. And then I want you to do exactly that same with your personal style, with your personal life. Do that. And if you need to set yourself a timer to go walk the dog, to do some yoga, do some stretching. You don't even need anything crazy. Just slide your butt off the couch on the floor and just do some stretching. Feel your body. Breathe. So it's going to be a lot of mindfulness activities, because that body-mind connection we lose that. We lose that. We taught to, not listen to our gut and to overthink ourselves and all that. We need to stop that first, because I'll tell you, our body knows first and our body knows best. So getting back into that connection of, oh wow, when is the last time I really took a really deep breath and now I feel better? All of a sudden my jaw is relaxed, my shoulders just fell down a little bit, and now my body physically understands we're not in danger. And that takes very intentional effort. Because if you keep being in that busy, I can't stop, I don't want to lose my momentum, that's exactly the wrong thing you're focusing on. Focus on the more you take care of yourself, the more you can take care of your patient. So the whole famous thing of you can't pour from an empty cup, yeah, you can, but at what cost? That's why I recently had a LinkedIn post about that too. It's such a misperception. Yeah, you can pour from an empty cup, but is that good outcome? Is that good advice? Is that good service? How do you feel? What's the taxes you're paying for it over the long time? And I did pay my taxes on my body for that. So as you would treat your work calendar, treat your personal calendar. Get in the breathing, go hug some trees. And even if it's every 2 hours, you just take a step back, you look out of the window, and you just admire how the leaves are moving in the wind. You're just admiring the little birds sitting on the little telephone mast over there. Those are the small little things that tell your brain, you're okay. We don't have to fight anything right now. We don't have to freeze or fly. There's nothing to fight. We're okay. Try that and do that for 30 days. And I guarantee you, not only will you feel different in your body, you're going to be more yourself, and you will start to attract success because you're not so busy making essentially avoidant moves. Because if you just keep busy, how on earth would you tell your mind or signal your brain that, yeah, I want more work, I want more success if I'm so busy with what I'm doing right now? So you actively have to create room in your schedule to just be. And then whatever belief system you subscribe to, the universe, then it's going to see, oh, wait a minute. So there's time. This feels powerful and relaxing, and I'm grounded. And then you're going to start seeing the success. It's very, very counterintuitive. But that is one of the self-hacks we're going to subscribe to for a long time.
That is such an important advice.
I'm
Yeah,
giving all my advice out for free here today.
I know, seriously.
Free
Honestly,
session.
I know. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, man, these are the type of conversation that dentists need to hear, because these are, I mean, me as a practicing dentist, go, go, go. That's all I do, right? I wake up 5 in the morning, get ready, 6:30, I'm out. 7, I'm in the office, go, go, go. 5, 6 o'clock, come home, do other things. So you never really truly have that time to stop and do the things that you're saying, right? And you get to a point where like it really becomes tiring at some point. Your mind gets tired, your body gets tired. And this is, I think Dr. Hughes mentioned this, is like we have to almost build our mind to be like a rock. You know what I mean? Like, because when we come home, all we want to do is we're so drained out that we want to sleep. We just all we want to do, we want to come home and sleep because we're so drained out and focused all day long. But just like you mentioned, taking those moments and just even between patients to just go out, get a sun, listen to things, and just allow your mind just kind of walk away from everything that you're doing. I think it's such an important advice for the dentist or for anyone that is high achiever doing whatever it is that they're doing that requires a lot of their mind. I think it's such an important advice.
Yeah. But in the end, also, really, when you're tired, then let the body rest. Let it rest. And if that means you're going to disappear for a weekend, then do that. Because then that's probably what you need. And what you will start by if you're able to really break it apart and you're being able to move away from the autopilot back to mindfulness, going back to autopilot, back to mindfulness. I'll tell you, your brain wants to, as we said at the beginning, your brain would like to be on autopilot for 95% of the time. That's proven because the brain it takes a lot of juice. It takes a lot of energy out of it. So that's the only way, that's how we, made it to the food chain, to the top of the food chain, because it is designed for so much speed and efficiency because it runs on that autopilot for 95%. So now when you're going to start decoding your own brain, that's going to make you much more tired in the beginning. Because you're forcing your brain out of the autopilot into manual breathing here. You're going to force it into creating new neural pathways. That is work. That will be exhausting. Your brain doesn't want to be exhausted. So again, it's going to find everything to walk you away from that, which is why the accountability of working with a coach, get a counsel, or just have a really good accountability partner who's going through the same stuff as you. Because that's going to take a long time for you to get into that new habit, so that at some point you can go back and you can create this. You're able to use these new neural pathways as your new autopilot. But until then, I'll tell you, it is going to be, you need to sleep more. You need to fuel your body. You need to fuel your mind and your soul. And if that means you have to go walk in the woods once a week, then damn, do that. Whatever it takes, you have to be fully present when you're off the clock and if you're on the clock. Be there and listen to your body, because the body always knows best.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. This podcast, we may have to start charging, man. I'm not gonna release this. This is a good one. That's awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's such an important advice, especially when I transition out of dental school. And then now that I talk to the doctors that are transitioning out, and I tell them the same thing. I'm like, when you transition from dental school to the real world, that transition is so draining. So if your mind and your body is not aligned with one another, man, you're gonna hit the walls so fast. Cause I did. And then when I tell the doctors, I'm like, man, 6 months out of dental school, I literally felt like I was out of dental school for 60 years. That's how I felt like. Cause I didn't know. I didn't know that felt like. And I say this all the time. It's like the sense of isolation and not knowing was the hardest part of it. And that's why, again, the main reason I started this podcast and I started doing the Dentment stuff was just because of that. Because I want the younger dentists to know that they're not alone and they can have a community, have a place that they can go to, because we all want to be part of something. I think that's so important to have that and know that we can kind of have something that we can turn ourselves, like you said, a coach, a place, an area, that whatever that is, to kind of help us get to the next stage. I mean, right now in the past 45 minutes, you have helped me change my mindset of saying maybe I need to kill my past me. Maybe the yesterday, it's not fresh today. That's what I need to do. But kind of transitioning from that, so you often talk about building businesses, right? So you have helped build a lot of big businesses and you're still doing that. The one thing that we talk about a lot in dentistry and in the business of dentistry with a lot of CEOs that I interviewed on our podcast is they talk about core value, right? So as you're helping this individual like build their brand, build who they are, how do you help them to discover their value and then help them integrate that into their brand so that their brand is different? Because if you can have an open a dental office, right? But like you said, if you don't exactly know what your niche is, what you're trying to accomplish, what are your value is, then you cannot kind of distinguish yourself from the next dentist next door. So how do you help someone to find that value and then turn that into their brand?
Love the question. Well, think about branding at first. So branding, especially when we start with personal branding, because that's what it is, right? As you're the doctor, you're the face of the practice. So the personal branding is going to be super important first. But what does branding really mean? Many people think that branding is putting on a mask and defining whatever that is, and that's what you're going to wear now. I see it differently. I would want to start with what is that truly moves you? What is that made you choose this path? What is that truly lights you up when you work with your patients? And so I always start with the Ikigai framework. It's a Japanese concept that essentially translates fairly into the reason of being. And so you start, if you can literally go ahead, Google that. It's not rocket science. I didn't make this up. So Ikigai essentially helps you. It's a structure that helps you to think about and truly and jot it down. What is it that you love? What is that people would pay you for? What is that really excites you? What do you think the world needs? Where do you get your energy from? So it combines all of that. And then in the middle, essentially, you're going to be able to really surface your true reason of being, your true why. That's the starting point. And now the branding is essentially there to amplify that. So instead of putting on a mask and defining something artificially out of the hot air, we're going to really dig deep, and you're going to define for yourself, what is your why? And that's what we're going to lean on. And then you amplify that. So now think about your practice as a person. Think about your brand as someone with what's the personality? Are they going to be more serious? Are they going to be a little bit more approachable and fun? Are they going to be young and old? Like how does that feel? How does it feel when someone walks into the practice? So think about it almost as if your brand was a person and that person is entering a room. How does the room feel? Like, how do people feel being in contact with that? Define that for yourself. And there's no right or wrong. You just need to define it for yourself and define, okay, does that feel right to me as the dentist, as the owner of this practice? And then it's as easy as that. You'll define it, and then you're going to start acting upon it. And then everything from your logo, your graphic design, even all the way into the interior design. Everything is going to be in line with that. So once you start defining that foundation, which so many people skip, they just have, here's my logo and I like blue. Okay, why and how? And how is it going to come to life? So that's going to be one of the important steps, really, to define the foundation. Start with yourself first, because it's very, very personal. It is about you. You're the face of this. So kind of like try to uncover what that is. Write it down, and then from there you can start briefing someone to create a logo. Once you define why you do this, how do you want it to feel? And that is immediately connected to the values. Is this going to be about community? Is it going to be about, just like a carefree environment? Do you want to feel people really taken care of? What is that? There's so many different levels. And that is how you can combine your why, bring it across in the values, and then build your brand based on that. How does that sound?
That is absolutely amazing. Because like you said, I asked you the same question of why you do certain things. So the fact that you have to figure out your whys and then build your brand around that and everything else, that's absolutely makes sense. On the final thing, I know our time is coming up. I don't even want to let you go because I still have so many questions.
Well, part 2 is coming then, I guess.
I know, yes, absolutely. I think it is coming up. But the one thing I want to ask is, what is one advice from perspective of branding, mindset, surrounding yourself with people that are positive and uplifting you? What is the advice? What is one single advice that you would give? And also burnout, right? The stress, burnout, things like that. What is the one advice you can give to the dentists, to entrepreneurs, to high achievers that they can do in a moment of stress, the moment of burnout, the moment of like the unknowns? What is one advice that you can give them that gonna help them kind of go through that moment and saying it's gonna be okay? Because sometimes I have gotten to a point where I'm like stressed, burnout, and I don't know what is the gateway to the other side. So I want to know, what is your one piece of advice that you can give someone that's going to help them kind of open up that door in those moments that the other side is going to be bright, right? So I just want to know, what's the one piece of advice you can give somebody?
You're literally asking for the silver bullet on right now. The number one advice that helped me and is helping my clients is finding either a piece of meditation that you can put on your phone. So my go-to, for example, is a yoga nidra exercise. So yoga nidra is essentially a yoga of the mind, and it is grounded into a body scan, and the body scan is essentially helping the prefrontal cortex to take back control and feeling into the body. And there are so many things out there. Literally go on Spotify, find what feels right for you, what's good. And even if it's just a 4 or 5 minute one, when you feel yourself in a moment like that, turn it on, close the doors, close your eyes, and listen to that. So when you find something like that you love, that's a great first step. Now, if you want to graduate from there, if you go through the process of journaling, of creating affirmations for yourself, right? Talking about that new person that we're becoming. One thing that I do, and don't laugh at it, but I write down affirmations. So it's either before I go into a networking event or before I go into a consultation, quote unquote sales call. I don't do sales calls, but how can I help you? I want to make sure that I completely detach myself from the outcome. I want to make sure that I'm just present. I don't think about getting clients on networking events. I just want to be there and show up in my zone of genius and just hold space for whoever needs it at this point, because they will find me. I'm not chasing, I'm attracting. But I do need that reminder every single time. And so I wrote down almost like a little pep talk for myself, and I recorded that puppy and I put some music behind it. And hell yes, am I listening to that on the drive to the networking events. So if you find something that's out there for you, awesome. If not, record it on your phone. And if you don't have any video editing or voice editing stuff, find a nice YouTube song, put it on your computer, some background meditation thing or whatever music vibes you up. Have that there, phone recording here, and you just talk over it and you record that and then you put it on loop, and that is going to be your go-to. So the moment you're going to feel, I'm losing touch, I haven't breathed in a while, everything is going to be awful, go back to that. Again, it takes attention and it takes intention to do that. But that's a habit, and it's as crazy as it sounds, but well, that's how you brainwash yourself into that success mindful and that success mindset for your future you.
That is so amazing, Miss Nadia. Well, Miss Nadia, I don't want this to end. Believe it or not, my phone is full of questions, but I'm like, time out. You said so many things tonight that I think I just have to go back, listen to this, write everything down, put it in my wall, and just read them every day. I uh, the one thing that I always kind of, because the value that you bring to the table, I think for dentists, non-dentists, whoever that is, it's so important, so fascinating. What is the best way for people to find you if they want to find you? Like, what's the easiest way for them to find you? If you can just tell me that. I'm going to put everything on description as well. But what's
Love
the
it.
easiest way for people to find you?
So the easiest way for you guys to find me is hit me up on LinkedIn. My name is a very unique spelling, Nadia with a D and a J, and the last name with the double N. It's weird. I'm pretty sure there's only one of them. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I do have a bunch of free resources out there. Please go ahead and check that out. I have a very recent one. It's the magnetic messaging playbook. How about I'm going to put that link to sign up here in the show notes too for you guys, so you don't have to browse around. But yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. And I mean, that's how we met, right? Just slide in my DMs and let's have a conversation, see how I can help you.
Yeah, no, I truly appreciate it, Nadia. I believe that with individuals like yourself, because the one thing that we always discuss in dentistry is that dentistry is stressful, dentists take their own life, highest suicide rate, and all those things. But I think by having people like yourself in our path, by finding individual like yourself with those knowledge, with those mindset, we can change the pathway of how we see dentistry as, or even people that are high achievers, again, not necessarily dentistry, but people that are focused, laser focused. I think individuals like yourself are truly changing the life of those entrepreneurs, and I'm super grateful for you Thank you for coming on here. Thank you for being open to having this conversation. I know it's weird when you get a message from some guy on LinkedIn, but I'm super thankful for you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know on the East Coast it's probably almost 9 o'clock at night, but I'm truly appreciative of your time. And I promise everybody, part two is coming because I still have a lot of questions to ask.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you
Nadia.
so much for having me. It's
Yes,
such a pleasure to talk
absolutely.
with you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.